Well, hello, shiny, crafty people. It's Tim Totten here, and welcome back to the channel. In fact, I'm having a problem seeing. I'm going to try to refresh this and see what happens. Yeah, it may be gone. Well, hello, shiny, crafty people. It's Tim Totten here. Welcome back to the channel. I went away for just a minute. I don't know if you saw me or not. I'm here today to talk about the most recent news, and this is Saturday. What's the date? June the 7th. And I wanted to talk specifically about Michael's buying and absorbing some of the intellectual property from Joann Fabric and Crafts store. So we're going to talk about Michael's Crafts. I'm trying to figure out how I can see the actual um, comments you're making. And the reason I say that is because, unfortunately, it's not working in the chat here. So if you're chatting anything to me, I apologize. I'm going to see if I can find that. I would love for you to actually chat, go ahead and send me any messages you have on the chat. So if you're watching, please. But my chat's not popping up on here, so I'm going to try to bring it up on my own phone and see if I can't figure it out. So I'm going to try that. I don't see it. I can probably go to YouTube on my. I could look for myself, like Googling yourself. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? So we're going to talk specifically. Yeah, I better turn that off. Oh yeah, okay. Mute him. Hey, okay, good. I can actually see chats. I'm going to put this up here on my computer somehow. Oh, in the place where the chat should have been. All right. So, Shara Bear and Lori, good to see you. Thank you, Niall. S&S Bankister. Good morning, Kathy. Good morning from Milwaukee. Well, hey, good morning from Orlando, Florida, where I'm taking a little staycation. Mary's in Nova Scotia. Candace is in Colorado. Wow, Wanda's coming from Wisconsin. E. Elliott from Washington State. Lori, you're from Crestview, Florida. Of course, my fellow Florida peeps, thank you so much for being here. You're in Louisiana, SNS. Bobby Carter, good morning to you. Kathy, good morning. Charlene, yes. I don't know much about the Charlene. I don't know much about the liquidation of the pattern companies, and the reality is, I'm not a news site. I'm specifically talking about the things that really affect me or the people that I talk to normally, which patterns may affect you specifically. But I don't do much with patterns on my channel, so I'm a little worried about whether or not I would even know anything about that or have an opinion for patterns because I literally the last time I pulled open a pattern drawer was when Joann's was discounting them, and I wanted to see what was going on there. But I will look into it. If there's something I can share or add something to it, I will. Lucy, good morning. Chris, good morning. Sandra, good morning. Becca, I can't say good morning to everybody. Let me just say good morning, everyone. So let's get into it. Interestingly enough, I had a video plan to go out today. I made it earlier this week. I made it Wednesday morning, super, super early. And it was all about the fact that Joann Fabric's website, even though Joann Fabrics was gone, their website had this cryptic message about, hey, we are planning something interesting in the future. We hope to see you. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I recorded a video. I scheduled it for Saturday, which I always do. I always have Saturday morning bam. And then Thursday, there was hints that Michaels was behind the drop of something happening. So I put my video out right away because it didn't say anything about Michaels in my video, of course, but it had my opinions and thoughts about what might happen if somebody bought the intellectual property. And since I'm making these videos about Joann Fabrics and Crafts sort of as a time capsule, as much for me as anyone else, I thought, well, this is what I felt at that time, what I was thinking at the time, and I want to make sure the video is out there. So I just published the video early. I did it sometime late Thursday, and then of course that's when Michaels dropped their big announcement that they had bought the intellectual property of Joann Fabrics, and so that's where that came in. Now, I'm not a news site. There are some news sites that can certainly give you more information, and in fact, I read most of my details about the purchase of Joann's um, intellectual property on several news sites, including USA Today. So, hey, from Tampa, Susan, thank you so much. And I have to say, Janice, thank you for coming from Saskatchewan, Canada. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, I hope I said it right. I mean, I've heard it said many times, but I'm sure there's some local inflection for how it should be said. So I want to go. Jennifer, you're coming from Southwest Ohio, and you should know that I have gone to Loveland and Milford, Ohio for years now because of an event that I used to work up there and had dear friends up there. So I love it. I'm going to look on, I want to go to the USA Today article announces that Michaels has purchased the intellectual property and private label brands of the bankrupt Joann Fabric and Crafts, a move to attract their customers who are devoted to those fabric and craft stores. Well, yes, that sounds like a good idea. And they try to get cutesy with they're hoping to sew up the business of fans who frequented Joann. Okay. They've acquired the intellectual property, some private label brands, including the Big Twist brands. I think those are yarn brands specifically. And they're going to expand their fabric sewing and yarn assortments by adding another 600 products to their stores, including Brother and Singer sewing machines, Oliso smart irons, and needle crafting kits from DMC and loops and threads, which is great. Then there's just some standard boilerplate from their CEO. This yada yada. We hope to blah 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 build on momentum, all of that sort of stuff. Um, it's interesting. They've been getting into the fabric and sewing. Someone on my channel in comments reminded me that they had purchased the Hancock's fabric, not to be at all the intellectual property of Hancock's fabric, not to be at all associated with Hancock's of Paducah, which is a completely separate by itself store in Paducah, Kentucky, which is amazing. I did a video on this channel about 2 months ago about them. Now, interestingly enough, about Michaels, they've done that then with Hancock's years ago. Now they've done that with Joann. Um, it's interesting to me. They have more stores than Joann had. So Joann had about 800 stores. Michaels has more than 1,300 stores in 49 U.S. states and in Canada. So it'll be interesting to see what they are able to do with a bigger group of people. And Pat Dye, you are from Loveland. Absolutely. I know you. I've stayed at your house. Pat's amazing. So thank you for watching, Pat. And Pat, answer me a question on here. Do you have a Michael's craft store that you go to nearby? I mean, I obviously have. I live in a much smaller town, and I got to drive 35 minutes or so now to get to Michael's, which I haven't even been to in years. I've always gone to Joann. So, do you go to Michael's, and do you ever see fabric there? Because interestingly enough, a number of people have commented on the last couple of videos I've done that their Michael's is smaller and doesn't have fabric. So it's interesting to see how much will they add. At the same point, I've been into Walmart stores that have nice big fabric sections, and I've been to Walmart stores that sell nothing but pre-cuts. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that, how that goes. This is a live Q&A, so I want you to go ahead and ask me questions. You can ask me any kind of questions you want. They don't just have to be about Michael's and Joann's. And in fact, there is a really good, a fun other YouTuber whose name sort of gets away from me, but I'm going to try to find her because she's kind of been the one I found out she's the one that's kind of broke the story about Joann's and Michael's. I want to tell you all who she is. So, are you Andrew Tate? Ragnar? No, I don't know why you would think that. Um, because I'm bald? I don't know. I am bald. I shave all my hair off. Let's see. Oh, Sewing Report Live. Sewing Report Live. Ragnar, I have no idea who you are, and you know why your thought goes to that, but I would prefer to be described more like, let's say, Patrick Stewart or any other person who's bald, not a controversial social media figure who makes crazy pronouncements online to gather attention. So there you go. Share Bear, you have one near me, but you stopped going long ago because you don't do a lot of crafts and they changed so much. There was nothing new that I ever wanted. Listen, same thing for me. I mean, I'm going to go in and check it out, but it's just far away. Um, yeah, Bobby says they had. Oh, I just turned on a light on the back of my phone. I don't know how to tell it. Just turn that off. You see here, I got light on the back. There we go. We'll turn that off. Let's see. I want to put here. Let's see. I'm going to figure out how to remove that person. There we go. I removed your message. No, we're not asking questions about people's personal questions in that way. I don't understand why when I say, like, you can ask me anything, you should be asking me questions about sewing and quilting and that kind of stuff. That would make a lot more sense. Um, so her name is Sewing Report Live. I don't know her first name. Oh, Jen from Sewing Report Live. So she is more like a news site, I guess. I've just seen her first video yesterday, or one of her videos yesterday. So check her out. She's got a lot more details about Joann's intellectual property. Fantastic. And it would be really great way to find out a whole lot more. Okay, so we're back to answering some questions. Um, Tink says our Michaels doesn't have much fabric, but the Hobby Lobby does if you choose to spend with them. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting question. I was thinking about making, I'm going to make another video because I want to go into Michaels and see what they actually have. And I'm going to go to a couple just so that I'm not like seeing one Michaels store and not the others. Uh, so we'll see. Um, and Hobby Lobby does have a selection of fabric. It's interesting. I haven't been in there at least in a year. Uh, Only because I for a couple of reasons, and I'll be glad to share those with you as my viewers and my followers, people who are kind enough to interact with me regularly. If you're new to this somehow and you came to see me and you've never seen me do videos before, you need to understand that I started during the COVID-19 pandemic. Just I made a video so that friends of mine who were helping make masks for the local community could see how to make a specific mask that I was cutting out fabric kits for. So I got my employees in my funeral supply company to cut out fabric mask kits, and we taught people how to do those. And then somebody brought me another cool mask design, and I went ahead and showed people how to make that in case they want to make something different. I put it on YouTube thinking that the 300 people sewing as part of my local group would see that video. And together, by the way, we've made over 34,000 masks for our local schools, churches, uh, uh, nursing homes, even the hospital was asking for masks back, when we were using hair ties as elastic to hold on your ears, that kind of stuff. So it's the only reason I ever started doing any sewing on YouTube. And then I added doing after that, it blew up. I mean, it became crazy. And I thought, you know what? I'll use this to teach people how to do basic sewing stuff. So I normally teach sewing tutorials, start to finish, with almost real time, with none of the mistakes taken out. It's the way I like to teach people about sewing that they can feel they can make it. I'm not a news site, so I'm not making these videos to like because I want to like become a news site about sewing or whatever. So with that understood, I'm going to talk about Hobby Lobby, but when I talk about Hobby Lobby, I want people who love Hobby Lobby and don't pay attention to the social stuff to understand that I have no issue with anybody using Hobby Lobby. I think you should make your own choices of where you spend your money. The owners of Hobby Lobby have made some questionable political choices in terms of what some people in the country might find as an attractive thing. And so therefore when they potentially offend people who may decide they don't want to spend their money there. So whenever I talk about Hobby Lobby, it's a little bit different because they've taken some social stands that may rub some people the wrong way. So there are people who say I won't shop at Hobby Lobby no matter what. Like I think Kathy said in here I wouldn't shop at Hobby Lobby. I get it. No reason to. If you don't like Hobby Lobby, please don't do it. I completely understand that. And and that makes sense. There are people who also have philosophical differences with Walmart and wouldn't shop there either. So I mean, those are things to understand. Hobby Lobby's just been a little more visible with the things that they've done as a somewhat smaller company than Walmart. So I will make those videos. Kathy Miller, there's a lot of Kathys on here today. Hey, Kathys, all of you. Kathy Miller, you saw that Simplicity has been sold to a liquidator. I heard someone tell me that there's like the big four of the big companies have been sold altogether, maybe to a liquidator. That's going to be rough. Maybe it's because Joann's closing a lot. I mean, they had five big cabinets of patterns at my Joann's store, and my Joann's wasn't a gigantic store. It wasn't one of the ETC etc. stores. Um, let's see. Lucy says you have a black screen. I'm so sorry. I hope other people don't have a black screen. If somebody else has a black screen and you can't see me, please let me know. Um, okay, Matt, Michael's just started getting in fabric. That's good to know. I'm going to be excited to get in there and see what they did. Uh, So, that'll be good. Yeah, I don't Lucy, I don't know. You might wanna refresh. I mean, I'll still be here. I'm gonna be on here for at least another 15 to 40 minutes. So you could always just refresh your browser. If you're on like a laptop or a desktop, you might even consider using a different browser. Kathy says I look fine on here. You know, somebody did ask me if I was another bald-headed guy from social media. I don't know if that was a joke or what, but it was funny because they could see me, obviously. So, Lucy, I hope it works out. It's so nice everybody's answering, Lucy. I really appreciate that. Y'all are great. Y'all are really helpful to each other. It's always so nice to me. All right, so I'm trying to figure out what else to talk about specifically. Uh, Brad and I have Disney passes, and we live not 35 miles from Disney World. So we decided this weekend to spend a little time at Disney parks and to stay at a resort in Orlando for a special event. So we're doing that now. It's very nice, but I tried to go outside to do this video outside because actually it's kind of nice today in the shade. And it was but there are quite a few people around, which I'm not bothered by being watched by people, but they're also playing some music pretty loud. And I know that if I play music, it might even shut down my live because it would be broadcasting someone else's copyrighted music. So I'm just in the room. That does look nice, at least. So let's see. Lucy got it. Thank you so much. Deb Kirks asks, how can we send you things? That's an interesting question. I do have a Facebook group called Shiny Crafty People, which you can go join. And it would be easier there if you want to message me. Also, if you go to the of my page, you can find an email address for me there and you could send me an email if you wanted to. It would be much better to know what you want to send me. I'm not doing this so that people will send me stuff. Like I'm not specifically asking for anything. I have multiple streams of income and I've done a pretty good job. I turned 50 this year. I've done a pretty good job in my last 20 or 15 years of diversifying my income, and I'm no longer this is not my job. Like being on YouTube isn't my job. It's not paying my bills. That being said, YouTube can be quite lucrative, and I don't do it. I mean, my videos don't get a huge number of views, but I'm at the point now with 80 something thousand followers, with each video getting 1 to 10,000 views, that I can pay for lunch every day with the money that YouTube provides. So thank all of you for watching because that's what that means. Uh, because of the ad revenue. And I, for a long time, I was going to turn off all the ads on my channel. And then I found out that YouTube doesn't care if you turn off the ads. They just won't share the money with you, but they'll still run the ads. So it seemed kind of dumb to me to let them run ads so that you had to watch them and then not make any benefit, because I usually take that money to either, yes, have a nice lunch, or help me buy stuff to show you on the channel. So sometimes I review things that I bought myself. Like I have a bunch of stuff coming from Amazon Haul. If you're one of those viewers who watches me all the time, I love doing this kind of a video with you because you could get to hear what's coming up soon. I'm going to do a video. Um, I'm going to do a video about Amazon Haul, which is basically Amazon's answer to Temu. Now, if you've always heard it as Timu or said it as Timu, you are completely understandable because they didn't really explain to anybody how to say their name. But then they did Super Bowl commercials where they said, enjoy Temu. And you're like, oh, I've been saying it wrong the entire time. Yeah, so it's Temu, apparently. Morning, Julie. Thanks for joining me. It's Temu. So anyway, Temu is that app that you buy all kinds of stuff super, super cheap, and it comes straight to you from China, and it just helps to whatever destroy the U.S. economy or whatever people say. I have no idea, but I'm not a Temu person because I don't like consumerism very much. Not because I have any real major issue with. I'm not getting into the philosophical or the political parts of it because that's so fraught with whatever, and I just don't really know. Uh, I lived for quite a few years in a tiny house and then in a fifth wheel, on by choice, to not only improve my financial situation but also work on my own consumption of things. So I already had businesses with properties and whatever else. And I lived in these tiny little places and learned. And I was also teaching my son, who's now 28. Oh my goodness, he's 28. My 28-year-old son, how to live in a smaller space and be more mindful of how much room he has because he's tends to hoard things. So we worked on that, and he's gotten a lot better about it. And me too. So the reality is that I don't buy a lot of stuff. Like I mean I don't shop. I don't go to a store just to walk around and see what can I buy. I might go to a store and walk around and see what's available, but I will oftentimes just I walk out. I don't even do that. Lately, because I've lost a fair amount of weight in the last 6 to 8 months, I have been I've been buying clothes, which I'm happy to do. So, Kay, you say you love Amazon Haul. I would love to hear, if you don't mind typing, what are the reasons that you love what you love about Amazon Haul. I made I made a very simple purchase of like 6 items about 2 months, 3 months ago to sort of test it out because I thought, well, I'm not going to bring it to my audience and talk to them about it if it's not any good, and I don't want to do it with just and it was some personal items as well as some sewing items. I was pleased and also a little bit I was disappointed in 1 or 2 items, but the other 4 were pretty good. This time I ordered like 10 or 11 items, all sewing items, because I want you to see what's available. But I also want my viewers, when you watch this video in a couple weeks, I want you to see what the quality looks like and how the pricing structure works. Because it's one of those ones that it's one of those things where when you buy like up to you got to buy $25 worth to get free shipping, which is a lot for Amazon, and it's which is typically Amazon unless you're a Prime member, which I've been for since the 1900s or whenever they started. We got it pretty early because of my business, and then they give discounts as you add dollar amounts. So when you hit certain thresholds, it's almost like a game. Like, oh, you need to add $4 to get to $50 to get you 10% off, like whatever. I maxed out at $75 worth of stuff, but I got 10 or 12 items. So that's pretty cheap. Those are $6 to $7 per item. We'll see how it goes. Um, and so I'm going to test it out. It does take several weeks to get things, so I won't get most of this stuff until the beginning of July. Mary says, does anyone know if Amazon Haul is available in Canada? I don't know, but on their website right now in the US, it says Amazon Haul beta. And beta, if you've heard that phrase but don't know what it means, I'll give you a little explanation. It's describing when they're in testing mode, right? So it's using a Greek letter of the Greek alphabet to describe a version of it. So it's not the alpha version; it's the beta version. So in beta, they're testing it. They're what they call beta testing. So it might not even be available for everyone. I got an invite months and months ago for like the soft launch of Amazon Haul, probably because I've been with them forever, paying their fees forever, and so that's kind of the way that's working. So I don't know if it's in Canada. Kay, you got your previous orders in a week. I got like 3 items in the very first, like 2 days later, but the rest are like put off until July. So who knows? Um, pardon me. Let's see. Oh, Joe Lynn is very nice. Says congratulations on your weight loss. I appreciate that. Chris says congratulations. It feels good to lose a few pounds. Okay, well, they're cleaning outside of my hotel room, which is very lovely. My self-esteem has gone up, Chris, but I will tell you, I'm far less focused on my outer image. It's probably why I haven't gotten a tattoo yet, because even though I have no problem with tattoos, I can't decide what to put on my body because I'm not really just emotionally connected to my body to care enough about putting something. Here we go. Here's a drink of water. My voice sounds like this because I've had an upper respiratory infection a couple weeks ago, and it's just finally going out. So let's see. Yeah, I did lose some weight. What's the weird thing is when people will see me and be like, "Oh my gosh, you look so amazing," and they're sort of equating thinness with health, which I used to do in the past as well until I saw a friend of mine or a good acquaintance at a convention. And my main business is in the funeral industry, so I was at this large industry convention and I saw this man who's such a nice guy, and he's always dressed to the nines, but he's always been a very big guy, like a big slab tall refrigerator box of a man, and carries it well, looks great. And I saw him and he'd lost like 200 pounds. He was so thin, like the swing. And I went, oh my goodness, wow, you've lost so much weight. That's amazing. And he said, yes, that having stage 4 cancer will do that. And so now I don't ever compliment anybody on their weight loss. I may say, wow, you look different, and then see what they say. Um, I will say the last time I saw him though, he was back to his earlier size because he had received a transplant and for the organ that was in terrible shape. So I'm so happy for him that he has survived. Good guy. I love him a lot, and he's a good guy, and he works really hard for the families that he serves and in his community. So we want him around for a while. Plus, he's not much older than I was, so that's always a little. Yeah. So let's see. DJ went to Joann's last night, and it said Mike. Oh, to their website. Yeah, it said Michael's. Yeah, they've already switched it over. So Pat wants to know. It's funny, Pat. Am I able to get the kite pattern that was shown in one of my videos? Absolutely. So that was the video I shot with my friend. I lost his name. Okay, a quilt shop owner that I shot a video with him. He's actually no longer running his quilt shop because he's out running around repping a fabric company, which is great for him. But I'm gonna have to see if he'll send me the pattern for that. I showed off this really cute kite. Yeah, I am going to. My biggest concern right now, Pat, is trying to figure out what to use for the crossbars in the back of the small kite. And it wasn't a very big kite. It was maybe, well, y'all can't tell how big my hands are right now, but um, it wasn't very big, but I want to make sure that if you make it, that I can tell you an item to use for the crossbars in the back, because you have to have sticks that hold the kite open. And I had bought some from Joann Fabrics, and they're you can't go to Joann to get them anymore. So I'm gonna have to find out where else you could get them because I want to be able to direct everybody to the same particular place to do that. And it's not just a matter of, hey, go to your yard and get some sticks out of the trees. So yeah, it is on the list. I promise. Just like I promised you when I saw you a couple of months or last month, I think. Yeah, we were seeing you and Greg and Jen last month. So I'm so excited. I want to brag on Pat for a minute. I would assume that most of you don't know Pat, and you don't need to go look her up or anything. But Pat, when I first started chatting with Pat about sewing, she had just really started doing quilting, and she was really unsure of what she was doing, and you could tell there was a tentativeness in her sewing, and that came across where things didn't quite line up the right way or cuts weren't exactly. But she stuck with it. This is why I always tell people you can stick with this stuff. The stuff she just showed me when I came to visit her looks like it's from a completely different sewer, somebody who's way, way more advanced. I'm so excited for her. Super excited. So Pat, you keep up that good work. I just can't even wait to see what you do next. I'm just amazed by your hard work and how you stuck with it and have really turned that around. Like it is night and day. And I don't mean like there you weren't awful before. I don't mean like that. You have to understand. I mean that in a good way. You looked good before. I loved where your ambition was, and you have good eye for color. But you've really stepped up the precision now, and that's really lovely. That's pretty impressive. Kathy small dowels can be bought at Lowe's, Home Depot. Might work for kites. Yeah, my biggest concern is getting them the right size already, because I try to think about if I was showing like if I sent this stuff, if I told my niece or my cousin to go make this, and they weren't really a big sewer, would they be able to, make it without having to majorly alter stuff? Like they wouldn't have to go find a saw to cut apart, wooden dowels to get them to fit. So I almost want to find dowels that are the right size so I can design it to the size of that. Good to hear, Kathy, that Lowe's would cut them. Perfect. So I will definitely look at Lowe's as an option. And I might also offer, what other kind of fabrics you might find there because there's really cool crafting stuff in a hardware store. And that's another video I'm working on right now is sort of aggregating all the different cool things you can find at different hardware stores. Specifically, I like local hardware stores, but they always have the same stuff. I'm kind of hesitant. I kind of want to tell people about Harbor Freight, but at the same point, it's another one of those stores that imports a lot of stuff. I guess most people import a lot of stuff now, and it's a good price. So I'm not sure. I've got to figure out: do I want to be like, hey, here's the inexpensive options, so you can really afford things on a budget? So I may make that a budget video, and then just if you want to go somewhere more expensive and buy something similar because it's better for the local economy or whatever, you could do that. I tend to shop at my local Ace hardware store because they are a local they are, there's a family locally that owns the franchises in our area, and they've employed the same employees for years and years and years, and I know them by name, and it's literally 3 minutes from my house, and I can go get exactly what I need. I always pay a little more most of the time. Not all the time. Most of the time, the items cost a little more than if I got on the highway and went out to Lowe's and fought the people in the parking lot and did all of that, but I don't know. I kind of like that I can go see Caesar or, Rob or Linda, and they know, they ask me how I'm doing and how's my kid doing, and then I ask Linda how her grandkids are doing, and we have all those good conversations. So I don't know. I guess I'm a softie that way, and I'm not as price conscious. I've been very fortunate, so I don't have to be as price conscious as I used to be. Okay, so I don't see as much commentary going on in the chat, and it's not. There's no rush. You don't have to say anything. I'm thinking specifically about you know what else I can talk about here before. Hmm, do you like my new personal logo? I designed this. What do you think of this new personal logo of my TT? It's a little fun. S&S Bankister. I get my fabric from thrift stores and estate sales. Listen, super smart, right? Like such a good idea. In fact, I did a video at think no So Green, which is a fabric thrift store in Rochester, New York. And I would love if you can comment on any of my videos, by the way, any of my videos, you can comment and give me suggestions if you know a fabric thrift store in your area or a thrift store that sells a lot of fabric. Now, So Green is specifically an actual uh, fabric and craft thrift store. That's exactly what they do. I did a video on my channel. You can watch that if you want. You don't have to. You can just Google in Rochester, New York, So Green uh, craft thrift store. It's a great idea. So let me ask you, SNS, thrifted sheets are yards of fabric for $1.50. That makes sense. How do you sort of decide whether it's a good piece of fabric and it's going to work well for you? And then what are you doing with those sheets? Like, are you actually using them for? I mean, other than making shepherd costumes for a church play, what are you doing with that large amount of pieces of fabric? Are you cutting that into smaller pieces to make quilts? Are you using it for clothing of some kind? I will tell you, I find men's dress shirts to be really good. um, and I find men's dress shirts to be good. If you find the larger ones, oh my goodness, you can get a lot of fabric out because the arms have a lot of fabric, and people don't realize that. Oh, you line your bags with old sheets? Hasana Joma? I don't know how to say your name with the 2 A's, but that's really smart. That's a really, really smart thing to line your bags with that. I love it. Um, summer shirts. Deb Kirk has put some. Yes, you know what? And it made them into summer shirts. Fuzzy Face Place, Leah. That's a cute name. Nice sheets make good quilt backs. Absolutely, you're so right, especially if you're pushing out a lot of quilts. My grandmother's, I have two grandmothers. I've told this story before on my channel, so I won't go too detailed, but I learned to sew from my two grandmothers who live in the same city, in the same subdivision, on the same street, in nearly identical houses, mirrored houses, right next to each other. And so my two amazing grandmothers taught me to sew, and they made 40 to 50 quilts a year because they gave a lot of them away to the local. Then they called it an orphanage. Now they call it a group home, right? And they would use anything for a backer, and they'd use anything for the inside. Didn't matter. They didn't always. They never bought batting by the roll that I could remember. They would buy old blankets, the fuzzy blankets, and put that on the inside. And then they didn't actually really quilt many of their. They didn't quilt with a sewing machine. Most of their stuff they actually used embroidery floss or yarn and tied them. So that's pretty impressive. Let's see. Chris says women's skirts. That's a great thing to make with old sheets. Makes perfect sense. Mm. Susan's used old table cover to make tote bags for the homeless. What a great idea. Jennifer makes aprons out of thrifted men's shirts. Now, do you just use the fabric to do that, or do you actually have like a pattern that takes into account the design of the way the shirt is built? Mm. Sherba says many people make cute clothing out of bed sheets. I really want to try that. That makes sense. I don't know how to read a pattern. Oh, well, that's a problem. Um, yeah, I know you say you don't there's nowhere in Buffalo that will teach you, but I think you could probably go over to So Green actually in Rochester and maybe even take a class. Who knows? There might be places, but yeah, most of the classes seem to be mostly quilting anymore. If you're finding a shop with fabric, it's probably a quilt shop. So that is a problem. I guess I will maybe have to tackle some pattern stuff. I don't love patterns. I don't love them. So okay. So Patricia, good morning. Joining a little late from SoCal. It's okay, Patricia. I'm glad you're with us. Thanks for coming from Southern California. SNS Bankster. I use sheets to make my clothing. It's just like a large piece of fabric, of course. Yes, plain ones are great for mock-ups. That makes so much sense. And only buying cotton sheets. What a great way to do. That's so smart. DJ, yes, So Green. I don't know who they partner with. Other than what's in the video, I just haven't watched the video in a while. Um, and they were doing great stuff. So in my video, I'd have to watch it again to remember exactly what we talked about. We went through it pretty fast because we were trying to get the video done before their store opened, and we didn't actually get it done before the show store opened. So we rushed the video a little bit. I probably would have spent even longer and maybe just listened to the fantastic lady for a lot longer. Julian creates. Hello, good morning. Well, hello, good morning to you. Thank you for being here. I'm actually relaxing. We had breakfast here at the hotel, and so we're going to skip lunch for that reason. And Brad's by the pool because he worships the sun. Apparently, I don't want to be hot. I'm in an air conditioned room. And actually, I was watching earlier the tennis match, the women's tennis match from the French Open. So I love tennis, and American Coco Gauff is going up against Arena Sabalenka. So we'll see. I kind of think Sabalenka is probably going to beat her, and maybe like my Michaels news, I'm late and it's already over. She won already. It started at least an hour ago. Susan Waldman, I teach sewing here in our community center and I've gotten many more sewers. It's good trading ideas. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Susan, where is that? If you don't mind telling us, we'd love to hear where you are in teaching. Um, a lot of people in guilds do know how to make clothes. Fuzzy Face Place, Leah, you're right. Check and see what guilds are around because they love to teach newbies. Good point. And so, Bear, you should think about that. Um, Jennifer cuts the arms off and uses the collar as the neck piece. Cut into the shape and use the arm for ties. I love that. That is such a good idea and we're talking about making aprons. So I asked Jennifer to tell us how she turned those into aprons. So that's fun. I might have to try to figure out how to do that just from your description and then share it with the people in the channel. Although I might want to like let you look at it first and make sure I actually did it right. Mm. All right, we're getting close to the end of this. Oh, Tampa, near Tampa and Arbor Green. Susan, thank you so much for doing that. Anybody who's watching near the Tampa area, Susan does stuff, teaches in Arbor Green. Greetings from San Antonio, Salsa Man 06. Hey, greetings from Orlando, Florida, where I am having a short staycation away from my house. We came to a really nice resort here in the Orlando area, and we did a little bit of Disney. I really want to go to the new Epic Universe, which is the new Universal Studios theme park, and it's. I'm gonna wait until it's not quite so burning, blasted hot. So we'll wait till it's a little bit. Susan Denny is from Atlanta. Hey, Susan, thanks for joining me. Um, Good plan to ask any of the places where you find fabric. They should know what guilds are in your area. Absolutely. So I went shopping just this week at my local quilting store called So Many Things, MINI Things. It's called Where the Boys Are because it's run by a couple of gentlemen who I think are either the heads or used to be the heads of the Lake County Quilt Guild where I live, and they own the quilting and sewing and fabric store. Almost all quilting fabrics. So again, that seems to be what's been doing well for local people. And they sell a lot of sewing machines, obviously, and embroidery machines and sergers. And my company bought a number of sergers from them. We use the Juki MO 1000 or MO 1100. It has the air blown system where you can put the threads in. They just blow through the. If you do it right, it takes a couple tries, but it's way better than trying to Thread all that. Anyone tried to thread a serger? I thought about doing a video about how to thread a bunch of different types of sergers, but I realized I don't want to buy a bunch of different types of sergers, and I'm just not sure how many places are going to let me come in and use them as a demonstration of how to thread sergers. I used to run only Husqvarna Husky Lock 910s or 911s or whatever they were. And you had to go thread each, and we got really good at it. And I used to buy them super cheap from people when they bought one and then used it, and then when the thread broke, they couldn't thread it again, and then it sat in a closet, and they just never touched it again, rather than learning. Um, so you can buy super sergers sometimes super cheap and almost unused from people, which is unfortunate because it's hard to do, but it's not that hard to learn. Like, you just have to learn. It's practice. That's what it is. It takes practice. Just like threading your sewing machine. Like, if you do that often enough, you can do it in your sleep. I could thread my sewing machine blindfolded. I mean, I don't need to. They're very thorough at this place. You see them cleaning behind me? They're literally cleaning the windows behind me. Yeah. Kathy, you're so right. YouTube has tons of serger threading videos. Yeah, and that's what also is impressive to me, is that there are these resources available. So I hope people follow them. And actually, um, the troubleshooting a serger is actually not that difficult. There's only so many things that can be wrong. If the threads keep breaking, there is something wrong. You just have to trace through and figure out what it is. But it doesn't have a lot of crazy moving parts. It's the tension, it's the way the thread's going through. You maybe don't have the thread threaded correctly. I will tell you, I have found that at least half, if not more, of the problems I've had with either a serger or a sewing machine can be remedied by simply taking all the thread out and starting over, taking every bit of thread out, the bobbin, everything. Take 2 or 3 deep breaths, cleanse yourself, center yourself, and then bam, start again. Let's see, Kathy, good morning from Alachua, Florida. Yay, Kathy. I went to the University of Florida. I studied architecture. I went to college for the same amount of time as my favorite architect, Frank Lloyd Wright. That means I went to 2 semesters and then left. But I love Alachua. I lived there for a number of years in Gainesville, and then moved back to Central Florida. Uh, yeah, SNS has a brother serger, and no problem threading it. Good. Yes, you're right. The more you do it, the better you're at it. You're better you are. Kathy, you're right. Changing needles, same thing. Oh, American Sewing Guild has a website with a lot of good resources for sewists. Kathy, thank you for telling me that. Susan wants to know, how did the self-threading sergers work, and do they really? I've always had trouble threading mine, and you don't like it. Tie mine off, and it's easy. Okay, first of all, that's what you should do anyway. Just tie them off and put more thread through. I'm thinking more like when threads break and whatever else. But yes, tying off is one of the best things to learn as a serger user, is an operator, is to add the new cones on the top, tie to the thread that you leave hanging out, and then pull them through. Now, the 2 threads that go to the needles may or may not pop through the needles. Maybe it's not a good idea to pop a knot through the needles. So if they get there and get stuck, you just thread that. You just pull it out, cut that thread off, and put it through the needle. But everything else has gone through a whole lot better. The way that the self-threading ones, at least the ones that I have, and they're all the same. They're all, because we have, I think, 8 of them in my company. Um, and we're using the air threading system. So basically, they have channels that guide it through. So you twist a couple things that moves all these metal pipes into place, and then what you do is you put the thread in the top of the pipe, hit a button that's pushing air through, and it's supposed to suck the thread through. The problem I've had is that you got to get the thread far enough in, and then static sometimes keeps it from going in. So you just got to kind of push it a little bit. Then you might think, oh, I'll wet the end of this and put it in, and then the wet hooks to the side of the metal tube, and it doesn't push. It's crazy. So, well, you have to figure out. Let's see. Bobby's Baby Lock has air threading. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Why, when it works great. Best sewing thing I ever did, Leah says, is buy a $5 thrift store broken sewing machine, dissecting it to know how they work. Now I'm no longer afraid of any sewing machine or long arm, and I do my own maintenance. Yay! Big applause for you. Mel has an Ovation self-threading serger, and it works great. You just have to make sure you've pulled enough thread before setting the thread into the air hole. That's good to know. I don't know what an Ovation is, but I mean, I know what an Ovation is if I'm, giving a talk or performing for people. I know what an Ovation is, but I meant, like, I don't know what brand that is. All right, so we're going to wrap this up in the next couple of minutes. I've been on for 45 minutes already. Can you believe it? What a fun Saturday for us to connect together. We did talk about Michaels. We talked about so many other things. I'd love to hear your reactions in the future when you think about why Michaels. Well, we understand why they bought the intellectual property from Joanne. What I didn't talk about, I do want to talk about this part, so I have to. I have to talk about this part because I meant to. I had several people in comments saying, "Oh, this is great. This means they'll reopen some stores." I don't know that when they already have 1,300 stores in place, whether Michaels is looking to reopen stores. However, you got to understand that if they opened or reopened a store, they wouldn't really be reopening the Joann that was there, and they wouldn't be reopening as Joann, and they don't have leases anymore because the leases were all with companies that were creditors in the bankruptcy, and those agreements are all gone now because they were cleared by the bankruptcy court. So there is no more. They can't take over a lease from Joann because Joann Fabric and Crafts no longer exists. What they bought from Fabric and Crafts, and I should just say Joann's like everybody else does, but there's no apostrophe s on Joann. It's just not there. It's actually just Joann. What they bought from Joann was the intellectual rights. They bought an ephemeral thing. They bought data. They bought lists of names of customers and email addresses and an app and a website and that stuff. They didn't, and maybe they didn't buy the app, I don't know. They didn't buy any physical thing or any obligation that Joann already had. That they didn't buy any of that. So they bought sort of what I called in my short video, the remnants, right? Oh, and Salsa Man has a great point. Joann, the company that liquidated Joann, that bought Joann out of bankruptcy and liquidated their assets, sold all the fixtures. So the stores are no longer, they're just big empty shells. You can't go in and reopen a Joann anyway. Not only that, but Michaels doesn't want to do that. I can't imagine. They have a brand, Michaels. They want, if anything, they would want to expand into some of the markets that they aren't currently in, but that Joann was really successful. And they would know that, first of all, they could just go to the list of 300 stores that Joann was going to leave open, and they would know which ones were the successful stores, right? And um, they totally would. They could do that. So, oh, Tink, yes, you like the TT? Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sure I'll be sharing more about why it's a circle and all that stuff later, but won't worry. Yes, Leah, they did buy the rights to certain named products as well. Absolutely. So that's all intellectual property. That's not actual um, physical items. All that physical items got liquidated by a separate liquidation company that bought the assets of Joann, the physical assets of Joann's, for a set price through the bankruptcy court, and then all that money got distributed to creditors in the bankruptcy. Um, let's see. Um, so that was important to point out that even if they wanted to reopen a Joann Fabric store, they really couldn't. Not in the way that it was before, because the stores are gone. The buildings are still there, and they may decide to take over, to go sign new leases and go into buildings. But most likely, I mean, 99, as there's, but while there's this much of a chance they would reopen an actual branded Joann store, the odds are they would just open a new Michael store in that location that had been a Joann store if for some reason there was a market in the United States they hadn't been in. Good morning, Vicky. Thanks for coming. So that's about really all they would do. I would love, like, I'm in the same camp. If you said, "Oh, I really wish they'd reopen my Joann store," I wish so too, because my local Michaels isn't local, not anywhere near me. It's quite a bit of ways. In fact, I haven't seen if there's a Michaels in the Villages. I live near the Villages, Florida, but it's still 40 or 45 minutes away, and so I don't want to go to that. Except when I'm teaching in the Villages, which is a plug for the fact that I teach classes about famed American architect Frank Lloyd Wright. I teach them at the Enrichment Academy in the Villages. So if you happen to be in the Villages or you have dear friends, and because there's over 100,000 plus rooftops in the Villages, the odds are you have friends who live in the Villages. Well, tell them to come see me. Come to one of my classes at the Enrichment Academy. Let's see. Hopefully they don't just overdo the fleece. Yeah. I live in Florida, SNS, and there was so much fleece in my store. And I'm like, why? Who wants these blankets? Is everyone making them for their grandchildren and sending them back north? I don't understand. Deb, that is one of the problems. Deb says my local Michaels is really dingy. They're not all the same, right? They're just not. So when people say, "Oh, Michaels is going to start carrying fabric," the truth is not every one of their stores will. Some of their stores are um, not. They don't get the same stuff. Um, Patricia says, rumor here is that Burlington's going to open some stores in some of the Joann locations. I can see that. The Burlington in Sanford, Florida, which is my closest Burlington, moved from the mall, which was having problems paying the electric bill, among other things. They moved over to where there had been another store, but I don't know if it was Joann or not. So we'll see what goes into those spaces, but we have quite a few spaces open now. Think about retailers that have left. If you're in an area that had a Bed Bath and Beyond, a Toys R Us at some point in the past, a Joann fabric store, or a Big Lots, every one of those is gone. And those are all big open spaces that need new tenants. So now, obviously, Toys R Us has been gone for a while, but I'm just giving some examples of some of those. Bed Bath and Beyond's been gone for a couple of years now too, but both Big Lots and Joann's, and then Party City did that a couple of, I don't know when, but not that long ago. So um, let's see. I use probably fleece to make my son covers for working on cars. Oh, that's interesting. I love it. All right. Well, I need to go get some more water and check out what's happening here at the resort. Brad is, like I said, ensconced at the pool. He says that the pool is a little warmer or cooler than yesterday. It was like a hot tub almost yesterday, which is not the thing you want to do in Florida. It's 90 something degrees today. Um, We do not want to be hot in the water. I want to get in a cool pool if I'm trying to escape the sun. So we'll see if that works. Otherwise, I'm going to go watch some tennis and just relax and do some fun stuff. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, stay crafty. Bye for now. Let's see. Yep, it's the right button.